Are you a linguist? Okay then, how many languages you speak? What exactly linguistics is about? Who are the linguists and what do they do? Every profession has its own specialty through which people can recognize you. When people know that you have a particular profession, automatically they have a reaction or they will have a question. For example, if we have a psychologist guest, we act and behave gently because the psychologist can read our behavior and actions pretty well. If we have a politician among us, we can't superficially comment on the political status because he is into politics. He lives in the situation. If we have a sociologist, we all listen to him or to her to solve or to find a social problem out there. We don't usually tell the lawyers what to do legally. They are legal individuals themselves. For a linguist, it's obvious. Whenever we hear the linguistics, we think of languages. It is clear through the word of linguistics that it has things to do with languages. Well, I know some people understand what exactly is linguistics and who is a linguist, but the majority of normal people go for the wrong question. Are you a linguist? Okay then, how many languages you speak? Actually, linguistics is not about speaking a number of languages, but rather it's simply a scientific study of the human languages in many different ways. Sometimes this question is directed to linguists in a good intention, but linguists are more aware than to be annoyed. Moreover, this question can open the door to explain for people who ask what linguistics really is. A linguist may answer, for example, one language. Others may say 2 or 3 or 10 languages. That's fine, it doesn't matter. As we said, linguistics is not about speaking a number of languages, but rather it's a scientific study on human languages. Well, anyway, we can answer this question slowly and clearly by saying something like this. Those who speak many languages are called polyglot. The word glot is originally a Latin word which means tongue or language. The prefix poly means a lot, or more than one. It's close to the Kurdish word pol or polek, a group of, or it's the same, not sure. Anyway, this polyglottism is an amazing skill people have because those who speak many languages are really fascinating people. But this is quite different from linguistics. Linguists are those professional people who examine, scrutinize, compare human language in different ways. If the language being researched was spoken and known by the researcher, that would be very helpful. But this is not the ultimate condition. A linguist can be a monolingual or a monoglot. I mean, he or she can be speaking in only one language, natively, properly. Here I should say something. For a linguist, knowing only one language makes the linguistics career harder. In what? In reading and using first-hand sources. Let's put in simple words. For example, if a linguist knew only Kurdish properly, then all the readings, sources, and the research topics would have to be in first-hand written Kurdish references. Otherwise, he or she must make use of translated sources. I mean, second-hand or third-hand sources. So, we have to ask whether the Kurdish language has enough first-hand sources about linguistics that are originally written in Kurdish. This question is also true for any other languages, whether Arabic, Persian, Turkish, English, Swedish, French, so on. This may be different for an English speaker because we all know that English is a global language and most of the scientific research is being written in English because English is an international language. It's the language of research and science. There's another thing in the linguistics equation. Sometimes chances are a linguist who speaks only his or her native language might be better in that language than a famous international linguist, let's say. For example, a native Kurdish linguist who speaks only Kurdish could be better than a famous English linguist in what? In examining and studying Kurdish language itself. The reason here is that the language being studied, here Kurdish, is 100% familiar to the linguist. The language we are researching and examining is not the language we are learning. So, what is it then? Well, the answer has many dimensions. We have to take them slowly in parts. Most linguists work on describing and defining particular languages. Every spoken language has its own phonology. Phonology is the sound system that contains every sound of the language. Another system is morphology. It is how words are built and how different sounds are connected together to produce meaningful pieces called word or vocabulary. Another system is syntax. That's putting words together to produce sentences based on grammatical rules. And then comes semantics, which is the study of meaning, what something means. After that comes pragmatics, which is the study of the use of the language, how humans use their language. So, describing a language is to present an organized report on these systems of human languages. If the linguist didn't know the studied language, then a native speaker of that language is needed as a consultant or assistant. Nowadays, this type of descriptive linguistics is necessary because many languages are endangered and are about to expire and go extinct. So, the duty of descriptive linguistics is to at least preserve and protect these languages by documenting them anyway. Some linguists in theoretical linguistics work on abstract aspects of the language. Abstract things are untouchable and inexperienced things. They are only in hypothetical and theoretical frame. They don't have concrete evidence in hand yet. Most linguists believe that all human languages basically have something in common. Theoretical linguistics is an attempt to identify characteristics of human language and try to make use of this unified model, which is called universal grammar. Well, you may think that universal grammar is the collection of all grammars of all the languages. No, but universal grammar is any universal characteristic that's found in a language. So, the works of a theoretical linguist mostly look at language details. Now, most of the natural languages are spoken languages, not just written. The study of speech in itself is a scientific field consisting of two basic elements: phonetics and speech perception. Phonetics is concerned with the small chunks and bits of the sounds that have a key role in speech mechanisms. Those who work in this field are called phoneticians. They observe the complex mechanisms of speech production. The speech perception, on the other hand, is analyzing the transmission of speech sound from the speaker's mouth to the listener's ears. This transmission is called acoustics. As for the speech perception specialists, they work on how the listener perceives or receives the sounds. I mean, how these sounds touch the ears and how the ears can translate these sounds into meaningful messages. Since speech is a physical phenomenon, unlike morphology and syntax, phoneticians use scientific physical instruments such as mathematics and the rules of physics to measure them. They also use sound labs in their research on speech. This means that speech mechanisms can be seen and observed through naked eyes and ears. In simple words, their works are more concrete than to be just abstract. When time passes, languages change. The group of people who spoke in one language in the beginning, now after isolation over centuries, will reach to a level that hardly understand each other. Studying this process of language change and bringing back the beginning sources is the work of historical linguists. Since language is the only feature confined to humans, it is necessary to be involved in other scientific fields that deal with cognition and behavior. Therefore, the research that have more than one field in them are important to understand human language better. These types of research are called interdisciplinary research. They have many fields in them to only understand human language, like psychology, neuroscience, child development, anthropology, sociology, etc. Because language has something in every field. So, being familiar to these fields as a linguist, we can successfully examine human languages. This is sometimes called hyphenated linguistics, in which two separate fields are joined together, such as psycholinguistics from psychology and linguistics, sociolinguistics from sociology and linguistics, neurolinguistics from neurology and linguistics, uh, computational linguistics from computer and linguistics, and so on. Psycholinguists look at what happens in our brain when we speak, read, or listen. Professionals in this field have developed smart techniques through which the complex process in our brain can be seen and analyzed. Neurologists, on the other hand, do almost the same task. Today, the works of neurolinguistics have advanced amazingly because of the invention of advanced technologies and tools such as fMRI, which stands for functional magnetic resonance imaging. One of the biggest mysteries of human language is how children learn a language so quickly and so skillfully, without even teaching them or to put them in schools. Children acquire language in the same way they learn to walk or to recognize faces around them. The linguists who work on language acquisition have been working on this process for years, but there still remain many other things left unknown so far. Until the 1960s, in general, language was considered a cultural phenomenon. That's why linguistics was a separate branch of anthropology. Now, although linguistics is a central and a separate field of scientific study, but culture and language are two sides of the same coin. They are inseparable. Culture and language go hand in hand. No culture without language, no language without culture. Therefore, the work of anthropological linguists is a continuous and necessary work. They work on how culture is expressed through language and how language affects culture. We all know people who speak our language and we understand each other and we communicate pretty well, but their language is not 100% like ours. There are always some differences here and there. The reason could be they are living far away from us or they live in other parts of the country or whatever. This variation of language is a central part of sociolinguistics study. Sociolinguists have shown us that there are some factors like gender, ethnicity, and socioeconomics. They all affect language variation. Moreover, they show us that this language variation plays an important role in language change phenomena. So now it's been clear, if we meet a linguist, how to ask the question. Not to ask a linguist how many languages you speak. No, rather ask a linguist, what is your specialty in linguistics? And you will have an amazing friend and an interesting conversation right after that. Thank you for watching.